Lolly, my buddy, how you been, man?
Good, man. You look good.
You look good too. If we sell this show, this animation show, I want you to write on it.
I can't wait, man.
Jeff and I love the fuck out of you. I want to talk about when we get on the air. I want to talk about how we met at the church with that crazy fuck.
You know, I'm gonna introduce you with that. What? I don't remember that, Mike.
Remember? Okay, this is how you and I met.
Well, wait. Why don't we save it?
Let's save it. Let's save it.
Okay. Because me not remembering it is kind of funny.
Good.
But I feel like I met you before that. But yeah, let's save it. Let's wait for this other fella to get in.
What have you been doing? What else have you been doing?
I live in Playa del Rey, man. I'm not doing anything. I'm landlocked. I'm very safe and, doing, just hanging out, hanging in there. Actually, you know what, man? This is what I usually do. I usually just start this shit. Since we're already recording, so let's just go. Yeah, are you safe, my friend?
I'm way out in West Hills.
Oh, you're fine.
And I have guns and knives and shit. Nobody's breaking into my place.
Yeah, you're good. Okay, see, I'm out by the beach, so I'm landlocked in a place where people aren't even at, I'm south of Playa. There's only one way to get in and out of here.
Mm-hmm.
South of Marina.
So there's no picketing or anything there?
There's nothing, man.
Nothing.
No.
Yeah, nothing. See, no, they're not going to fucking fuck with that there. Rich white folk, they're picketing. Nobody's.
Well, they're not even coming. They're not even. I just don't think they can get out here. I don't think people are going to march out here. Like, I don't ride my bike into town. I don't know who's going to fucking walk out here.
Wow. How long have you been out there for?
Just since the beginning of the year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. I got very blessed, man. I was in mid-Wilshire. I would have been on the Fairfax district right now if I lived where I lived before.
When I first moved out here, I lived in Koreatown, and it's fucking crazy now. You can't park. You can't do anything.
Yeah, I don't miss that.
No, I don't either.
City. Where's West Hills? Is that the valley?
Yeah, I'm all the way at the end. Okay, so if you have the valley, you have Calabasas is the last stop before you hit Ventura County. Okay, so I'm 3 exits before the end of the line of Los Angeles.
Is it on? Okay, so if you take like Van Nuys to get out there, or what?
Way past that. If you take the 101, I'm off a Shoot.
Shoot.
Yeah,
you're like almost by Calabasas, dude.
Right. Then you have Calabasas, you have Valley Spring, and after that, you're basically in Ventura County.
You're in a very nice neighborhood, Mike.
It's okay. I mean, like 2 miles from my house is ghetto as fuck, but nobody's going to picket. And the reason being is this. We're up all the way at the top of the hill. Nobody's going up this way. They might picket on Ventura, but they're not going to picket up at the top. It's just too much work.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of crime like 2 miles east. So it's ghetto as fuck. Nobody's going to fuck with each other there. Nobody's getting out of their car to picket there.
Good. Well, good for you. And, I'm just glad you guys are safe and sound. And, I understand destruction of violent protests and shit are necessary, but I want all my friends and family, people I know to be okay, So
yeah, I mean, I used to train cops. So I don't even go to the picketing. Somebody asked me what I think of it, and I go, what that cop did was completely fucking idiotic. Because my cousin was a cop. My cousin was a decorated cop and an undercover cop. And the cops that I know now, my friends, are terrified because they were telling me, they go, he lost his fucking mind. I don't know nobody knows what this guy was thinking. Kneeling on his neck for 7-8 minutes. Like, what? He's already cuffed. Just leave him on the ground. What are you doing?
Yeah. But it's been boiling over for a while. It's kind of like this Corona thing was like the perfect powder keg to make people go apeshit, because of the Sandra Bland and And, you know, you can go down a list of names of these people who, you know, maybe some of them were justifiable, the Michael Brown or whatever, but, you know, this lady, I forget, again, I'm not the most knowledgeable. That's why I don't get into stuff like this on my show usually, because I don't retain a lot of information about the news. Probably why I'm such a happy person, by the way.
Yeah, I don't really follow the news either.
But there was a lady a few weeks ago who was killed in her house by police who thought she was somebody else. She was killed in her sleep. I'm sure you saw that. So this shit has been, you know, and then the two guys in the South, the three guys murdering the jogger, you know, so it's like, it's kind of like, feels like, you know, hopefully this will be the worst of it, you know, the violence, and maybe it'll die down. And I don't know, dude, you know, but I get it. And I'm glad Beverly Hills is burning. I do take some pleasure out of seeing Beverly Hills. I'm not going to lie to you. Like somebody broke into fucking, did you see that? Like Beverly Hills got looted.
And it's hard to loot because their police officers are like SWAT. They don't fuck around because of the money there. That's why I was surprised they got looted. I'm like, they got looted? Those cops, you break a window, cops are there like that.
Well, also, aren't the windows like 6-inch thick glass? I mean, yeah.
They were working towards that looting. That's the place you're going to loot, though. If you're going to loot, you loot Beverly Hills.
Yeah, you're going to get something valuable there.
Yes, you don't loot the hood. You go to Beverly Hills and you steal good shit. You know, you walk out with a McLaren. You don't fuck with this bullshit.
Well, I think one thing we can all agree on since the 92 riots, violent people have definitely planned better.
That's hilarious.
Planned better. You know, you're not looting Popeye's chicken. You're not burning down Popeye's chicken. You're burning down like Neiman Marcus and
they've moved up. They've stepped it up.
They stepped it up. They've learned from past mistakes of past generations. So I'm just going to introduce you, Mike, because Eric's not here and this is how the show goes, dude. People will just pop in whenever, and you know, nobody fucking cares. We don't take it that seriously, but yeah. But for those of you watching out there, I have a guy who I've known almost 20 years in comedy. Yeah. I'm thinking we have different memories of when we met, but we're going to get into that in a second. But I would describe this guy as the Bill Lambeer of stand-up comedy. That's my. You are the Bill Lambeer of stand-up comedy. This is a guy who is basically as Sebastian Maniscalco if he could not afford the fine dining. Truly a guy who I enjoy being around, and as comedy gets softer, this guy is even more valued in my mind in stand-up. And we met apparently through a church gig, which this is Mike Muratore, my buddy. He's in the Valley. Hey, Mike, and you know, you can tell us where we met. You tell me first, and then I'll tell you where I think we met.
Okay. I remember meeting you at that church in West LA. What was the name of that church? St. Bede's?
You mean Dave Corrado's place that Dave Corrado ran?
This is where I remember.
What year are we talking here?
I don't know, but we're going to talk about when you kicked Dave's ass, too, because I almost kicked Dave's ass. That's a whole nother thing. We're going to get to that.
How did I never told anybody about that. Dave must have told people about that.
I almost beat his ass, too. We're going to get into that.
Okay, but first.
This is what I remember, okay? I remember meeting you at St. Bede's. We were sitting in the back. And Eddie Ed was on stage in a dress. I'll never forget it. He was in a dress, and he's telling me that I can't curse. I'm like, you're a fucking child molester in a dress. You're in a dress. And he got busted for child molestation.
Stop.
No, he did. He got busted. That's a whole nother thing. I felt bad for him because I don't think it was real. They took his kid away. It was a bad thing.
That's bad, dude. What?
Yeah.
You can't. It's hard to go on a subject like that and then not elaborate. I'm not saying I was never close with the guy. The guy would lecture me about how I should do my stand-up, and I would just look at him like he was from an alternate universe, like I'd wander into a David Lynch show.
Yeah, he's out of his mind. But I remember meeting you there because he was in a dress, And he's telling me that I can't curse. And I'm like, idiot, you're in a dress. And this is where it got weird. I don't know if you remember Gay Paul. Gay Paul was this guy, Gay Paul.
No.
Gay Paul was there. Gay Paul goes up after him and takes dildos and puts them on like a stool and is doing his act. And I'm thinking, okay, I can't curse. This dude is in a dress, got busted for child molestation. This dude is gay with his dildos. Where am I? And then Paul had a dog in a cage that would like bark during people's shows. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I meet you. I probably met you before that, but that's one of the times that I remember.
What year? Give me the year, since we're trying.
It had to be. What are we in? 20? I want to say maybe 03, 04.
I was never there though, and it was later than that I was doing those shows. It was like 2006, 7, 8, maybe.
Okay.
But I met you before that. You just didn't remember me. But
okay.
we actually met at the Bliss Cafe. And I'll tell you when I remember meeting you. Again, I could be wrong. It might have been even before this. There was a lot of marijuana consumption going on at that time, and a lot of it's fuzzy. But by the way, for the people out there watching, so what Mike is describing, the scene that he's describing, is what I would put into words as the real comedy underground of Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
Not these fucking hipster yuppies pretending they're street people. The real cast outs, the real fringe of performance art. And by the way, mostly nice, really nice people.
Yes.
I would describe them as highly uncompetitive, and they just wanted a place to perform. And there were a couple really cool dudes, our buddy Howard Berger, Dave Corrado, who created all these little, very strange little comedy scenes out of youth hostels and churches and pizza places, and I don't even know. The Bliss Cafe, which was really the armpit of underground comedy for Hollywood, before the boom of boring people, before the boring people all saw John Mulaney and decided they could do this too. There was a real underground of comedy, and the Bliss Cafe is where I remember meeting you. And I'll tell you, I remember this. I remember sitting there, and you were on stage, and you were going fucking nuts like you do. Loud, and there was a lady back. She was a Jewish woman, not Howard's wife. She was another Jewish, like, school teacher type lady, and she was sitting in the back. God, man, I've never shared this memory with anybody. I remember her looking at you, and then she looked at me, and I hope I can make this funny. I really do hope I can make this funny. Just do it. It was really funny. And it's very complimentary to you. But I remember this school teacher Jewish lady watching you and looking at me. And we had this little exchange. She goes, "Are you?" I go, "Yeah, I'm on next." She goes, "Oh, well, good luck following this guy." I mean, there's only 7 people. The place only holds 15 people. There's probably 7 people, and 5 or 6 of them are us performers. You know, and the Jewish lady's the one. She was the one. She was toting you up, man. She was like looking at you like, this guy's awesome. That was why she was saying that. She wasn't saying that because she was like, this guy's fucking horrible. She was like giving you a compliment. That's why I didn't know if I could explain that right.
Steven and I, Lolli and I did a roast about 3-4 months ago before the pandemic. Remember that piece of shit roast?
Right before everything shut down. Right before everything shut down.
I had a black lady and another lady, after I got off stage, started fucking with me outside. And I said, listen, man, do you know what a roast is? Do you understand what a roast is? This is why I don't even do roasts anymore. I don't even want to do them because people now are so sensitive about what you say to them. Why are we doing this? We don't need to do this. Like if there's no money, why are we roasting somebody who's not famous? Why are we there?
He filled the room. That room was full of people. Really, those weren't comics. Those were, well, yeah, there were about 70 comics in the back, but most of those people actually came. And I haven't even seen a room like that for comedy in so long. Yeah, people are very sensitive You know, we can get into that a little. I think some of it is because younger people grew up on all their social commentary was animated in cartoons. I think younger people, especially, grew up with like all their social commentary was the football head on the cartoon baby. And we grew up with George Carlin, Richard Pryor, and Eddie Murphy Raw. We grew up with real social commentary humor. And so I think that's why the people who think they're I'm not talking about the general population. I just mean the people who are carrying around this pretense like they're comedians or they're creative or they're hip. And they're really just like these very stiff, conservative, like deeply conservative people.
You can't say anything to them. They lose their minds. And the problem is with these young kids is they never really, they came into the world in a time when the technology is so advanced that they can just do whatever they want. When I was a little kid, they had the internet, but it wasn't like it is now. Like they can just do and say whatever they want. And they think they're expert at something, that they watch a YouTube video and they think that they know what they're talking about. And like, motherfucker, you don't know shit. Just because you watched a video, you have no depth of skill. My problem is with comedy now, why I want to get the fuck out of it and why I'm producing TV, is there's no depth of skill like when we started. It's really refreshing to watch an older comic who's been doing it for a long time. You can see the depth of what they're doing. You watch a lot of these new people, it's not that they're not funny, it's that they're not developed. There's no development. They're a fucking headliner after a year. I'm like, well, get the fuck out of here. And it's all social like media now. If you have a social following, you can headline and you theoretically can be fucking unwatchable. And that's okay. And when we started, like comics, I feel had more skill. That's my big issue.
Well, first of all, there were fewer, there definitely were, I mean, when I started, and you started, I don't know what year you started. I started mid-90s. I've been doing this I'm going on 25 years. The comics were like, they were like mesmerizing. They were mesmerizing. They were not
fantastic.
Generic. They were not generic. They were more like the music of the 60s. It was kind of like the music of the 60s and 70s. The comedy of the 80s was more like, I can't put my finger on it. It was like theater. It was like better theater. It was like better, funnier performance art than, you know, the comics, even the road comics, even the guys who would be considered hacks back then were skilled, interesting. There was always a little bit of opinion, but it was highly funny. And I don't know, when Comedy Central came around and they started giving half hours out on Comedy Central, and all of the cadence and the rhythm, shit. It was all the same shit.
Always.
And, yeah. And that was sort of like, for me, like the beginning of the end. I'm sure it was personal for me because they wouldn't put me on. I'm sure it was personal for some of us, but it was also boring. It was just not as good. And but getting to your point about the young people, I want to say this though. They also grew up in an era where they would, okay, so if you're young and you're growing up with social media, right, since 2005, everything you say and do is recorded in perpetuity online. You can't do and say anything without it being sort of exponentially, like, let me put it this way. I did so many fucked up things as a young person that if I can think of 3 or 4 of them right offhand, if they had been captured in perpetuity in any way, in photograph or in video, my life would be over. I mean,
me too. I would be fucked.
Right. So we didn't have that penalty. What we did have, though, if you said the wrong shit to somebody in person, you got your ass kicked. And young people don't have that. They don't have that. They didn't get their asses kicked. They didn't have real physical confrontation like we did.
And see, where I grew up, that's how it went, too, because I was a minority in an all-white town. I'm only half white. And where I grew up, it went like this. Gun, knife, hand to hand if you're still alive. It was never, I don't threaten people. If I'm going to do something to somebody, if I threaten you, it's probably because I love you and I don't want to hit you. I went through that shit with Adam Richman recently. I had to get rid of him because he was stalking my business partner. And I love the fuck out of Adam, but he's crazy. And I if I'm going to do something horrible to you, I'm not going to tell you. I'm just going to do it. And these people, they haven't, like you said, not only confrontation, you don't say something to somebody unless you know that, like, if you threaten somebody, you have to know that that person might retaliate. The problem that I have with younger people, I love millennials. I have a lot of friends that are in that age group. I love all of them. The problem is they don't have restraint. They'll say something to somebody, and then if the person goes off on them, they can't understand why it happened. I've watched that shit with Jeff where we've been out, and somebody said some stupid ass shit, thinking that we're not going to say anything, and then they get offended when we retaliate and we say something back to them. It's like, you're just going to get knocked the fuck out. Let's just go outside. Well, you know,
what do you get? Okay, so give me a garden variety example of what has been said to you, because I'm sure you and Jeff walk into these. By the way, people, if you're not in LA, which a lot of you are not, in LA, if you walk into a comedy venue, it's a petri dish of passive aggression and people trying to figure out how to craft a monologue for a casting director. It's not like a street art type of soulful scene out here. So imagine Mike Muratore and Jeff Keller. Jeff will be on a coming up episode being released soon. Imagine these two guys, right? I just want to hear what has been said to you.
I was with Jeff, I don't know, it was probably right before the pandemic, maybe 3-4 months ago. We're sitting at a bar. We were doing comedy at my friend's shithole, the Sycamore, which has been closed. And white women hate me. I get the white woman hateful shit. They'll come up to me and say the stupidest shit.
That's why I like being with you, because I can hide behind that.
Well, white girl comes up to me and she says, I don't like the fact that you talk shit about single moms. I said, let's get something fucking straight. I almost married a single mom. I hate single moms the way black people hate the Klan. You make bad life fucking choices. I was raised by a fucking single mom who was like an LA 10. It's a whole nother story. My mother's fucking batshit crazy. I said, you pick some asshole, and now we have to pay the price for your shitty choice. So this is what you need to do. You need to stop fucking. You need to close your fucking legs. And you need to make better life choices in life, and your life will be better. That's a fact. Or if you're a single parent, date another fucking single parent, and you'll both be second in each other's lives. But I can tell you this. Out of all of my friends who don't have kids, guys, that have married a single mom, it has been a 100% failure rate. Every fucking one of them, including me, has walked out on the situation because it just doesn't work.
I feel like you told this story on stage one time.
I did. And she came up to me like offended. And I said, well, why are you offended? Well,
was she a young white female?
Yes, but she was a single mom. And I said, the first question I asked was, where is the dad? Well, he's not in the picture. Ask yourself why. Guys are fucking dumb. I love being a fucking man. We're stupid.
Well, we also want someone to sleep with us, and there's nobody lonelier and more available than a single mom.
Right. And I said, listen, if you can't keep a man, because she was good looking too. I complimented her. I go, listen, you're beautiful. You're doing something fucking wrong. Because men aren't that deep. You don't want a man. And then Jeff fucking popped in, and he goes, he's right. You want a baller. You want a unicorn. You don't want a fucking boyfriend. You want a fucking unicorn. And you're not going to get that as a single mom. Date a single dad. And you'll be happy. You both can. I can
hear the words coming out of Jeff's mouth. It's funny that.
Yeah, and she got so pissed off, she just ran off. And I was just like, "Fuck this bitch." It's like, because it's the truth. It's like, get the fuck out of here. I had another guy come up to me who was a midget or a dwarf. I don't know what the fuck he was. He was like 2 feet off the ground. He said that I offended him. And I said, why are you offended? It was like a whole other thing. He goes, I don't like the bit that you do about hitting the dwarf, but I did hit a dwarf in the Comedy Store because he did try to come on stage and I punched him in the neck. That's true. And the guy looked at me, he goes, why'd you hit him? I go, if you're stupid enough to climb on stage with a comic, you're stupid enough to get knocked the fuck out. It's that simple. I don't climb on stage when you're on stage. You know why? I want to get knocked the fuck out. It's that simple. When we started, nobody climbed on stage. They got fucked with. Now, people just think they can do whatever they want. They just show up. They're just going to walk on stage.
Mike, I think you should craft a 5 or 7 minutes just telling stories about the people who've been disgusted or offended at your shows. I mean,
I'm working on that now, actually.
End it with close with the punching the dwarf. That's my professional critical.
Why did you hit the dwarf? I said, if you crawled on stage with me right now, I'd knock you the fuck out.
I could see it on the audio track. You know, track number 7. Punching the. Why did you hit the dwarf? People are gonna just go straight to that. They're gonna go straight to that track. You know, they're gonna want to know. They're gonna want to skip all the other shit. The feminist was angry. We know they're all angry.
We don't need all
Why
that. Let's get to the dwarf punching. The dwarf punching.
I didn't toss him.
I just hit him. I hit him.
You could have tossed him. You could have tossed him. That would have been maybe even funnier. But you know, when you're in these moments, you don't have premeditation. This is me editing it afterward.
Dude, I was at the Comedy Store in the main room doing the show.
Oh, and that's a big event as a comic. You're in the main room.
This motherfucker, I'm watching this shit. He starts crawling on stage like a crab. He's trying to crawl up. I go, what the fuck are you doing? I stopped. I go, you're not really coming up here, are you? And he's like, I'm going to come up there. I said, I'm not that fucking guy. And I just pushed him right off into the fucking chairs.
You didn't punch him. You pushed him.
I pushed him into the chairs. And they were like, I was like, oh, no, we don't have that shit. Fuck all that. I don't care that you're a dwarf. Your mother should have not fucked a dwarf. I don't have time for your dwarf shit. Take your dwarf shit and go somewhere else. I don't give a fuck. Take your dwarfism and dwarf the fuck out of here. Go build me a little sandcastle or something. I don't have time. I would never, listen, in defense of every comic out there, I would never have the balls, if you were on stage, to climb on stage or walk on, because I know what was going to happen. It's bad. Like, don't do that. Like, dude, you don't walk into a woman's bathroom when they're taking a piss. You don't walk on stage when comics are telling jokes.
These are stupid. Basic guidelines for life from Mike Muratore.
It's stupid, right?
That's what we have for those of you who just don't understand basic things. You know, you could come to the no idea zone and find out just very simple things that may have escaped you. You might not have been taught. I once knew a girl who got a cut on her arm, and she, instead of putting a astringent on it, she put like moisturizing cream, and then she got an infection. You think there had been some parental guidance early on, parental, but not even parental, just maybe a teacher or a big brother or sister, or maybe a friend, or some kind of mentor to say, if you get a cut, you got to use hydrogen peroxide or alcohol and put a bandage on it, not Noxzema or Neutrogena and I remember that happening and thinking, not everybody knows something. So you come here and you have Mike Muratore. We have the pleasure of Mike Muratore just explaining simple things. Dwarf, tall person, NBA player, don't come on stage.
Don't come on stage.
Size or height. And Mike and I are not big guys, but we're telling you from our perspective, don't come on stage on any show.
No.
Just don't run up on stage. It's not a good idea. Do you remember Henrietta? Do you remember her?
Oh, I loved Crazy Henrietta.
Whatever happened to Henrietta, by the way?
She quit. I talked to her about a year ago. She quit. Now she's rapping.
straight out of Shoal. Man.
Did I ever tell you when she sent me her naked pictures? They were disturbing. She's into some dirty shit.
A lot of the Jewish women, man, if you can get a Jewish woman, it's hard to get a Jewish woman. They're very strange creatures, but if you can get one, they're wild, man. Was she into like dungeon and S&M stuff?
Yeah, what it was is, remember Terry the Plumber? Did you ever meet Terry the Plumber?
I don't think so.
He's another maniac. He's in Vietnam now or Thailand with some 16-year-old girl. Who the fuck knows? Anyway, they sent me photographs of them naked together. And I'm like, Henrietta, please don't send me this shit. Well, what do you think? You look like a chicken without feathers. I don't need to look at you.
Oh my gosh.
I'm good.
So the reason I bring up Henrietta is because Henrietta would go on stage with the intro she performed at the Montreal Comedy Festival, just for laughs. And I remember thinking, wow, that's kind of wild. And this is when I first moved to LA. So the beginning of 2002, end of 2001, when Henrietta is one of the first people I ran into. And she's going on stage at I think in the Valley, at the club, which name I won't mention because I don't want to give anyone free advertising for this club. But she would go on and say, she would, with the intro, and we all use bullshit intros. I've used them too. But she would say, I appeared at the Montreal Comedy Festival. I performed there. So later on, years later, there was another comic telling me I was there at the Montreal Comedy Festival. Technically, she did perform at the Montreal Comedy Festival, but it's because she was in Montreal and in between the comics during the show, she ran on stage. She just ran up on stage and grabbed the mic and started performing. I don't know if I'm surprised you never heard that, Muratore.
No, I never heard that one.
So I don't know what her reprimand was. I mean, Canadians are very polite.
They are very polite. They are.
But I think she's the only one running on stage might have worked out for her.
Well, she quit. She's done. She's gone to another place.
She hung in there longer than I thought she would, to be fair.
She wasn't the craziest that we know, though. I've met a lot of real fucking lunatics.
Go through the list. Bliss Cafe, folks?
Who do you think's the craziest that we know?
Crazy.
Henrietta would be up in the top 5, I think.
Henrietta's up there. I think Walton Jordan was pretty crazy, but I don't think he was.
Whatever happened to him?
Again, I don't know. And I put him on. He had. I don't want to get too much off on a sidetrack. I want to give you my crazy list pretty good. Definitely the Dave Corrado scene of miscreants, and I mean you couldn't make this shit up. Definitely that group. And so, but let's get into this. How did you even hear about me beating up Dave Corrado? Because
he told me.
That's a testament to him that he would admit that. You
should have whipped his ass more, because I wound up almost whipping his ass.
Do you know how did he tell you the details of what?
Well, he told me his side, and the first thing I said to him is like, "What did you do to Lolli to make him want to whip your ass?" like the way a cop would do it. Like, what did you do?
He charged me. He charged me in the church.
I believe you.
He charged at me. I dropped the water bottle I had. I just reacted, and I don't even know what I did. It happened so fast. But I'm used to fighting people bigger than me. I'm not used to people my size or smaller than me charging me.
So did you throw him onto the ground or some shit?
Dude, I grabbed him I think it happened so fast, man. I grabbed him by the head and I took all my body weight and I slammed him down on the ground in one motion. I don't know where that instinct came from. I'm not a tough guy, but I've been in my fair share of fights, mostly for people out there who are thinking I've been in a lot of fights now. I acted crazy during my adolescence. That was what kept me out of more harm. I acted really nuts. And so I'm not a skilled fighter, but this is the guy I'm talking about is not a formidable opponent. And we had a disagreement, and he charged me, and I just grabbed him, I slammed him to the ground, and he popped up, and man, he was bleeding. This is inside the church. This is in the church that this happened, and I saw the blood coming out of his head, and he jumped up, and then popped up, and I think he came at me again, and then I grabbed him and I pinned him down, or I put him in a headlock or something where he couldn't get out, and that was it. And then he didn't come at me again. I pacified him. But anyway, he called me later that night and he goes, Lolli, he goes, you got me pretty good. You beat me up pretty good. And I go, all right, Dave, you doing okay? Dude, I didn't really understand that he had been drunk through the whole thing and probably physically numb. And then the next day he called me and he said, I can't ever have you on the show again.
Like, that's a loss.
He had sobered up and he obviously had felt the pain of what had happened to him. And then, it was like a real thing, but we didn't talk for a long time. And, I felt very badly about that too, man. I mean, I don't feel badly about defending myself, but I just want you to know I didn't pick a fight with Dave.
Oh, no, I got banned from the church because he didn't I said something crazy on stage and he goes, I can't have you back. I go, let's get something straight, Dave. You're not funny. Your crew's not funny. And when I see you, it's going to be bad for you. Because he did it on the phone, too. This is after I already left. And then when Robert Murray died, he tried to be my best friend. And I said, listen, man, the reason I didn't go to Robert Murray's funerals because I didn't want to run into you motherfuckers because you'd get knocked the fuck out. I don't play fight. And then he tried to be friends with me recently. And I was cool with him because Howard and I are good friends. But I was just
he went through some I love him. I actually love the guy. I think he's all right. I'm not as – listen, I had a physical altercation with him, but I think I had I can't carry around – I just can't be mad at him. I have no reason to be mad at him either, actually. I mean, I hurt him pretty bad. So but he went through a getting sober. He went through a big thing.
Oh, torture. Getting
sober. And so he's a normal guy now. And I love the guy. I wish him the best. I hope for the best. Maybe I'll even have him on the show since we told this whole story. I didn't know other people even knew about that. I got to be honest with you. I'm surprised he told people about that.
Because when they told me, the first thing I said is, what did you do? Like, that was the first thing I said. Because, I know how people really, I go, what did you do to get into a fight?
He ran into me. He ran into me.
Yeah.
And there was another guy there who was a local guy who looked at me. He just looked at me after that with the most disgust. He was so upset with me. I think his name was Joe, or super nice guy who lived in the neighborhood. Oh, do you remember Lola Shalom? Do you remember her?
No.
She was a lady who lived in that neighborhood who would come in and she wanted to do her poetry. And she would come in, she had a little dog. She ended up passing away. She died of cancer. I became friends with her and hung out with her. She's an older woman. But she was Bob Dylan's personal assistant, dude.
That's fucking
Bob
deep.
Dylan would just show up to her house. And when she was dying, she called me and she said, I want to go see Bob. Will you go with me? I go, yeah, sure. Of course, I'm going to meet fucking Bob Dylan. I actually drove to Bob Dylan's house. I didn't meet him, but I got to drive and go on his property. And I could take you to Bob Dylan's house.
Where the fuck does he live?
Way out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like Heather Cliff, way out past Zuma Beach.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And if you're driving by his property, poor Bob Dylan, if anybody's looking for Bob Dylan, you can probably use this as a map now if you really want to track Bob. If you're driving by his property, dude, it looks like a construction site. You would never know. I'm sure he does that purposely. He makes it look like it's not a residence, nobody lives there. So anybody looking for his residence would not think that it was legitimate,
Wow. And she was his assistant?
Yeah. Mike, this stupid fucking thing is going to cut us off. I'm going to have to thank you, and we'll bring you back.
Pleasure, buddy.
Love
You'll
you,
hear from me if we sell this thing. We're working on it. You'll hear from me.
I'm honored to be part of it. You two guys, we'd have a lot of fun. Hey, Mike, quickly, tell us where we can find you on social media and elsewhere.
Hit me up on Instagram at Serial Killer of Comedy. That's my favorite. Hit me up on Instagram.
Okay, everybody. Mike, thank you, brother. We'll have you back soon, brother. Thank you for
all right, buddy. Be good.